My son Simon, when he was 3 years old, caught meningitis. And it was a kind of a vicious recurrent meningitis. As long as my son was under the influence and taking antibiotics, he was all right. But as soon as the infusion was taken out, his meningitis was returned. And as a kind of proud Palestinian nationalist, I took my son to one of our hospitals in East Jerusalem. And the doctors there, they tried their best. They didn't have the equipment to really diagnose what was wrong with my son. And eventually my wife, when she saw that the young boy was suffering, becoming under a kind of experimental situation with the Palestinian doctors, she said, I have enough. And we all know that in healthcare, Israel and the hospitals in Israel are the best in the world. So my wife insisted to take my son to Hadassah. And it only took 48 hours for the physicians at Hadassah to diagnose that young Simon had a minute hole that could not be seen in his backbone. It's called a fistula. And the doctor said, we have to carry a very difficult microsurgery under a microscope, a 10-hour operation to clean up this infected area, and that the operation is dangerous because if the surgeon's scalpel sort of moves even less than a hairbreadth, it might paralyze the child. But the child was fighting for his life, and we had no other choice. So we signed for the operation. And the happiest moment in my life, I think, was when the Israeli Jewish surgeon came out of the operation and he said, I saw the little toe of your son moving. That means that everything went fully right. And in less than 3 days, Simon was back at home, healthy, well again. And now he's a young man with 2 children. So this also influenced me that, I always, when I speak with Israelis, I say, you have the blessing of helping, healing people. You have failed politically. Use your other options. The whole Arab world needs better health care. People will flock to come to have the kind of care that my son had. And I think slowly it's sinking in that maybe it's not all about politics, it's all about attitudes, it's all about how to approach the conflict. And in 1985, the PLO leadership, which is the leadership, the Palestinian leadership of the Palestinian people, chose me to become one of 2 representatives to negotiate with the State of Israel. And at that time, I was able to meet Rabin, Shamir, Perez, and many Israeli leaders, as well as many Arab leaders and Palestinian leaders like Arafat, like King Hussein, in order to work in the negotiations and the reconciliation process. I am a member of the highest parliamentary body of the Palestinian people, which is called the PNC, the Palestine National Council. I was an advisor to the late Yasser Arafat politically. I was also appointed as a member of the important Palestinian delegation that went to Madrid in 1991 when the Americans under Bush the father and James Baker were able to bring all the parties to start the present negotiation process that we are still in it at the moment. Before the state of Israel took shape, we were all living together. Jews, Christians, Arab, Muslims. We were all called Palestinians. We were all living under the British mandate. And we had natural working relationship. I remember that in my father's house, which was in West Jerusalem today, we had rented a Jewish pharmacist an apartment in our building. And we were friendly. Actually, in the profession of my father, our first pharmacy in the old city of Jerusalem was almost a stone throw from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And my father employed a Jewish pharmacist to help him run the business. So there was no discrimination, there was understanding. I think what has happened is really the political conflict, which until today has made life miserable for both our people. Today, in Israel and in Palestine, we have a significant majority of over 65% Israeli and Palestinian who wants to have a political solution based on the two-state solution, sharing the country, each realizing his separate self-identity in part of the same homeland. We don't have the leaders that are taking us toward that course. I believe, the religious factor in the struggle is very important. You know that Jerusalem is the home of the three monotheistic faiths. Christianity was born there. Judaism had its home in Jerusalem. The Muslims, since the 6th century, also have the third holiest mosque of Islam, Al-Aqsa, in the same homeland. I believe here the best solution, and especially for the city of Jerusalem, and not the whole city, just the 1 square kilometers within the walls of the old city, is to give that city back to God and have the jurisdiction and sovereignty of God and the three faiths over this small city. And then there is no problem between us Palestinians to recognize West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and the Israelis to recognize the Palestinians in East Jerusalem. We are actually, in a way, through religions, in conflict over this 1 square kilometers where actually all the symbols of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam is present at the moment. And this is why I think your project and other projects should lead us into more involvement of the representatives of the three religions in coming up with solutions to problems like the future of Jerusalem.